Welcome to Cultural Fluency Makers. I'm your host, David Wellish. Each week, we welcome leaders to share how they stay ahead of the ever-changing consumer landscape. With today's cultural transformation, top brands need to understand diverse consumer segments from Gen Z, Hispanic, and LGBTQ+, to gamers, wine enthusiasts, and basketball fanatics in Iowa. Their marketing strategies require them to keep the pulse on their consumers, but also their brand in the category to continue to grow revenue for the long term. Cultural Fluency Makers is sponsored by Collage Group, the only cultural intelligence engine that provides brand and consumer insights on the why that drives consumer behavior and purchase decisions. Let's get started. I am so excited for this episode and look forward to a dynamic and insightful dialogue. With me today is an award-winning marketing executive with an exceptional track record of driving growth for both established and emerging brands. She's deeply passionate about the art and the science of marketing, with a unique talent for blending data and design to create integrated marketing strategies that consistently surpass business goals. Her impressive career includes roles with major brands such as Frito-Lay, PepsiCo, and Diageo. She currently serves as the Chief Marketing Officer at Danone. Linda Bethea, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me. Excited to be here.
All right, let's have fun here. So, Linda, given America's rapidly changing demographic and cultural landscape, what role does inclusive marketing play in your overall marketing strategy?
It's a great question. Danone's mission is to deliver health through food to as many people as possible. So think about that for a second. As many people as possible. In order to achieve our mission, we have to reach a diverse set of consumers. It's actually embedded in everything we do. And so I really think as marketers, we need to shift our mindset from thinking about multicultural and inclusive marketing as a separate strategy or a separate pillar to embedding it in everything we do. Inclusive marketing is marketing.
I love that. And Linda, has that always been the case in your mind? How has this notion, and so many different executives have different terms for it, but how has this evolved and how has it changed? And you've been at so many great, such great, unique brands, which, by the way, we work with. I think most of them are currently. What has evolved? What have you seen?
I think as the landscape in America has evolved, we've had to evolve the way we think about inclusive marketing. We are operating in a much more diverse landscape. If you think about the makeup of the different generations and the younger generations that our brands are trying to recruit, every generation is more diverse than the last. They're more diverse in terms of their, ethnic makeup, their gender makeup, how they approach these topics. And so if you're not thinking inclusively, you're not going to resonate with that new younger audience of consumers.
And so what's hard? What's hard about this? As marketers, we're always pursuing growth, right? I mean, right? And that's our objective, right? To grow our brands, to grow brand laws. And many of these diverse consumers are driving the growth of the category. So what's hard?
I think a couple things. I think one, on the internal side of things, making sure that we continue to educate our stakeholders, our leadership teams, our marketing teams on the importance of inclusive marketing as marketing, the importance of reaching that diverse set of consumers in order to drive growth, and making sure it is embedded in everything we do, from our insights to our product development, to our casting of commercials, to the agencies we work with. It's absolutely critical to ensure that we have diverse people working on our brands and businesses. And then as I take an external lens, one of the challenges we have is scale, right? We have a commitment, for example, to invest a certain % of our media spend with diverse owned publishers and platforms. It is the right thing to do, but we struggle to get the scale and the reach that we need to achieve our objectives through those platforms. So the industry still has work to do to enable us to achieve those objectives.
Linda, I love how you put it. There's an internal and external. We're blessed and honored to be working with about 300 different brands. So we see a bunch. The pendulum swings. We see a lot. You talked about education. What happens? How hard is what comes after? So education can have so many different flavors. Priorities. After education is done. Then how do you get teams to collaborate on this?
I think it's all about building the business case. At Danone, we believe you should measure what you treasure, and we absolutely treasure reaching that diverse set of consumers. And so we measure that. Are we driving household penetration with a diverse set of consumers? I'll use an example on our silk business. We know that multicultural consumers over-index in lactose intolerance. So they're more likely to seek out plant-based options. So we set specific household penetration goals with those consumers through our silk business. But in order to achieve those objectives, again, we have to make sure that we're, including them and embedding that in the insights that we're mining to build the brand strategy, to the products that we're developing and putting out into the world, into the marketing campaigns. Are we building creative strategies and content that's going to resonate with a diverse consumer base?
In structurally and organizationally, Linda, that sits with everybody. There's no distinct department or somebody's responsibility, but it's brand managers and folks that are running the day-to-day business.
Yes, growth is a team sport. We are all here at Danone in service of our mission to deliver health through food to as many people as possible. So we all need to adopt that mindset and think about how do we change our processes, marketing and beyond, in order to recruit that diverse audience.
I love that. Thank you for that. How important do you think is for consumer organizations to get this right?
It's absolutely critical. It's a business imperative. If you are not resonating with a diverse set of consumers who are the future of this country, your brands will become obsolete. They will shift from your brands to other brands that are resonating more with them and feel like they reflect their values and understand their cultural fluency.
That's great. So I've been honored to moderate several different roundtables this last year with CMOs. And we've talked about how important is it to be culturally fluent or culturally relevant to win with hearts and or consumers' hearts and minds. And the answer has always been, oh, it is essential. I mean, it is what marketing is about. So let me ask you this, Linda. How do you define being culturally relevant or culturally fluent? What is that? It seems so abstract and so difficult to hone in. And how do you define it? And how do you become it?
I mean, it's definitely a buzzword right now in the industry, and it's very broad. I like to think about it in terms of how do we insert our brands into culture in a way that resonates truly with the consumer target, but is also authentic to our brands. And for me, it all goes back to insights. And so I'll use an example on our International Delight Creamer brand. We have a very loyal fan base that loves us for our over-the-top flavors and personality. But we were struggling to recruit that younger consumer into the portfolio. And so we mined some insights and we learned that those younger consumers were watching a lot of reality TV every week. And so we started to think about, okay, is there an intersection, between something they're already consuming in culture, reality TV, and our product? And we took to TikTok, which is obviously a platform that was fast growing with younger consumers. Now it's currently up in the air. And we thought about, okay, how do we create a reality TV show parody about international delight? And hence we birthed Creamer Nation Creme House, which is all about what if we took, 5 creamers, put them in a house together and filmed them to see what would happen, what drama would ensue. And so it's been a really successful, fun content series that's talking to our consumer base in a new way, in a language they understand, building on a cultural phenomenon. And it's been so successful, driven our TikTok engagement and following through the roof. We're currently on season 5 and continuing to expand beyond that. So that's a great example of taking a cultural insight, a cultural phenomenon, and bringing it to life through our brands. Another way we do that is thinking through our product portfolio or how our products can be used in consumers' lives. I mentioned earlier that on our silk business, we're specifically looking at multicultural consumers who may have lactose intolerance. We also know that multicultural consumers have a very strong cultural relationship with food. A lot of them show love through food and what they make for their family. And so they're very hesitant to change any of the ingredients in those family recipes and traditions. And so even though they may have a need for a plant-based offering, they're worried about, can they deliver the same great macaroni and cheese that they're known for if they substitute one of the dairy ingredients for plant-based. And so we work really hard to make sure that, one, we're delivering product superiority and the best taste experience possible, but also providing recipes and education so that they feel confident in delivering the same great tasting mac and cheese recipe they've been delivering for years in now a plant-based way.
Linda, you clearly, you guys have done your homework. These are great stories with grounded in insight. And if we talk about insight for a second, in the world of culture that moves so fast, and you talked about authenticity, which is so important, and clearly both of your examples are so grounded in such important insights that it really drove your entire strategy and tactic. Are you doing anything new in the insights world to get at these? What would you share around how you're getting to these groundbreaking insights?
I mean, I think it's important that we always keep the consumer at the heart of everything we do. We are in service of the consumer. And so, yes, we have a fantastic insights team that's doing a lot more what I would call traditional insights work, but I think you can get insights from anywhere. And so on our team, we set quarterly creative treks where we go out into the world and try to be inspired by different things. It could be going to a farmer's market, going to a pop-up art installation, interacting with people out in the world, and really just seeing what's driving culture today, what people are gravitating to in their towns and cities, what's new at the grocery store, and really trying to mine some of those experiences for insights that we can apply back to our brands and businesses.
And is that, which I mean, clearly that feels like the most authentic way of learning and generating. Is that codified? Like, is it part of people's day-to-day or monthly or quarterly operation to go out in the marketplace and interact?
Yeah, we have a spreadsheet, a shared sheet where everybody can volunteer or put forth ideas for this quarter's culture trek. And it's, just a great way to really start to embed that into our culture here at Danone. We also send out weekly inspiration emails. Anybody can contribute to them. What are you seeing out in the marketplace that's inspiring to you this week? Whether it's a piece of creative, a news headline, a new product. And we make sure that we're constantly sharing all of those pieces of inspiration. It just gets the juices flowing.
All about the creative magic, which is tough. Super. So at a time, if we get into the math of it all, at a time when generating ROI is just so critical for most companies these days, how do you balance the fact that these consumers are driving the growth of the category? And so therefore, how do you trade off the notion of targeted communications or messaging with more of a holistic campaign that targets the overall market?
It's a great question. At the end of the day, it does come down to reach. We make sure as we're building our media plans that we're reaching, a sufficient number of consumers to achieve our marketing and business objectives. As I mentioned earlier, scale can be a barrier to reaching that diverse audience. But we also have to remember that there is data that shows that building a campaign grounded in more diverse insights will resonate with the broadest audience possible. But building a campaign for Gen Pop may not resonate with that diverse subset of consumers. So you almost have to flip your mindset a little bit as you think about that and make sure that, again, it's grounded in insights and you're building the right plan to reach the broadest group of consumers possible.
So Linda, we do a bunch of testing, a bunch of ad testing and brand testing. So we call that phenomena halo effect. And we've seen it so much that if you authentically resonate with a specific segment, it halos and it transcends that segment, which obviously is incredibly helpful in the ROI world. And so, maybe moving on to the tsunami of AI, how could we not? And it's not just AI, but even it's interesting the impact of AI or the role of AI, both in this world that we're talking about, also in insights. What kind of impact do you believe that AI is currently having in both marketing and insights? And how does this thing evolve?
I think AI is a fantastic tool when harnessed correctly. So, from an insight standpoint, it's absolutely helped us assess the impact of our creative much faster than we would working through traditional research methods. On the creative development side, we're leveraging it for mood boards, for storyboards, really kind of cutting out key time in the creative process without replacing the deep creative thinking required by the humans that work on the business. So it's really about figuring out what tools work for you and leveraging the right way to drive efficiency so that you can unleash the most effective creative to drive your objectives.
Do you think that as we evolve, will AI continue to evolve in profound ways outside of this, what you've described? I know it's hard to have a crystal ball on this one.
I wish I did for many reasons, but I think we've only scratched the surface of what AI can do and how it will transform our industry.
Great. Thank you for sharing so much insight. I mean, you've got so much wisdom to share given your career trajectory. I think folks in the audience would love to not just hear from you, but also about you. And so maybe we'll switch a little bit to a little more personal questions. What inspires you? What motivates you with what you do every day?
My 15-year-old daughter, she absolutely inspires me every day. She makes me a better mom and a better marketer. She is a great source of information for trends, cultural trends, what's happening out in the world. She gives me a very honest assessment if I dare to show her work in progress, design or creative. And she's just a wonderful human being.
So you got a powerful focus group in your daughter. I've got 3, so I know exactly what you're talking about. I also remember in one of our conversations back and forth, you said it's so important to enjoy. It's so important to have fun as you do what you do, which I think is so critical in highly stressful environments.
Yeah, I mean, we're spending a lot of hours at work every week. And so if you're not having fun doing that, it's a missed opportunity. And so we talk about that as a key value in our team and what we can do to enable more fun throughout the day.
That inspired me. If you could travel back in time and give your 20-year-old self advice, what would that look like? What would it be?
I would probably tell her that it doesn't get easier, but you get stronger. I think, as you move up in your career, as you progress through different life stages, it becomes more difficult and more complex, but you become more experienced and you have more tools at your disposal to manage through the ups and downs of life.
Fantastic. So we get stronger. It's not easier, but we're better able to face that which comes our way. I couldn't agree with you more.
And you have more perspective, right, to appreciate all of those experiences, difficult and wonderful.
Somebody said to me, life, what is it? Life is not for beginners.
No, it is not.
It's not. It comes at it from so many different places, and so strength, which also comes from experience and wisdom and reflect, I would assume. That's great. Wait, what do you do for fun outside of work?
I spend a lot of time with my daughter. She is a dual sport competitive athlete. So my weekends are spent either in a gymnastics gym or on a volleyball court watching her compete. And I also love fitness. I love hiking, walking on the beach, going to bar class. That physical aspect of activity actually helps me from a mental standpoint as well.
Fantastic. Well, Linda, I really appreciate your time and your sort of candid sharing in all of what you've learned through your years. Um, if people have questions or they want to find you, and is LinkedIn the best way? What's the best way?
Absolutely. You can find me on LinkedIn, and I'm happy to respond to any questions that people have.
Great, Linda. Well, again, thank you very much for your time. It's been super fun and intellectually stimulating to chat. From an audience perspective, thank you for listening. And if you learned something today or laughed or found it entertaining and stimulating, obviously tell somebody about the podcast. Thank you again, Linda, to you. And this has been another exciting episode of Cultural Fluency Makers. See you next time. That's a wrap on another episode of Cultural Fluency Makers. Thank you for joining us. Please share your comments and what you would like to hear more about. Be as specific as possible. For show notes and more, please visit culturalfluencymakers.com. This show is proudly sponsored by Collage Group, unleashing the power of cultural intelligence to fuel brand growth. Please follow Collage Group on LinkedIn, and we will see you next week.